Yes then, gang, how are we doing? I'll just move these lucky dice out of the way. Fun fact, I jinx this now. I've had these lucky dice since I first passed my test. I think my mum got them for me as a present, either when I first passed my test or for the first car I got, which was when I was like 17. So I've had them for years. Never been in a car crash when these have been in my car. So I've taken them down and I watched me get in a bad wreck on the way to the gym. How are we all doing? It is Saturday. It is Saturday morning, bright and early. It's just gone 8 a.m. and we are on the way to EP, this time for a client session. So we've got one of my clients, Alex, down. He is just finished his reversal phase. We're just about to start bumping calories back up and working our way into what is going to be a long and productive growth phase for him. So yeah, it's going to be good. We've got upper on the cards, and it's going to be a good chance to hop in the posing room, because the posing room at EP is goated. Take a look at his rig in person, have a little look at where any improvements need to be made, and we've both got a pretty good understanding of that. And yeah, just to assess his condition and make sure that we are in a good spot, ready to take off. Obviously, online coach, but I do try and meet as many of the lads in person as possible. I believe it's so important to foster those long, healthy relationships. You know, a lot of coaches nowadays will just hide behind their WhatsApps and their Loom videos and won't like to go out there and to meet their clients. And I think it's, as I say, super important. So I try and do it as often as I can. So yeah, upper on the cards, probably 2 back, row and a pull down, 2 chest, probably a fly and incline, 2 delt, so an overhead press and a lat raise variation, and then 1 bicep, 1 tricep. Nice and simple, 2-3 sets across the board. No, not crazy high volume, although I'm sort of peak bulk myself, obviously with Alex being week 4, week 5 of a reversal. Like, sure, calories are back up to maintenance, he's feeling good, but he's still relatively lean. He is lean, in fact, he's still quite lean, so we don't want to be doing anything stupid today, working well within our means, and yeah, we'll shift some good tin regardless. So yeah, the goals that myself and my coach had discussed in terms of my own journey, we are starting off with, I say starting off, it's a continuation of the growth phase that I've placed myself in for the past probably 4 or 5 months or so. We're continuing that on because there's still a lot of progress to be made. Still super fresh, my appetite's not in the bin, I'm still hungry. Training performance is flying, 0 signs of plateauing there. Once the 15-16 week growth phase, continuation of growth phase is done, we're going to go into a little short, sharp 8 to 10 week aggressive fat loss phase just before Christmas to lean down a little bit, because I'll have been in a surplus for the best part of a year then, so it will certainly be needed. We are either eyeing up a photo shoot next year, which is probably the most likely option, or a show. We will see. That is an itch in my head which I think needs to be scratched at some point. This is another interesting topic as well, which I'm sure a lot of you watching will have an opinion of, so drop it in the comments. Do you have to have competed on a bodybuilding stage to call yourself a bodybuilder? Divisive topic. I call myself a bodybuilder. It's in my Instagram bio. My entire craft and my career is spent working towards building my body. Just because I haven't competed yet, does that make me or not make me a bodybuilder? I'm keen to hear your thoughts. So yeah, that's the goal for the back end of this year. Little 8-week diet. We'll enjoy Christmas, and then we'll go into another growth phase for probably 3 to 4 months in the new year, taking me through to sort of end of March, start of April, and then I'm sure we'll put our heads together and decide whether we go down the route of a show or whether we go down the route of a photo shoot. Decided just for someone else to take the reins, to be honest. As I say, coaches need coaches too, so to have the ability to just, you know, hand over everything to this person. So I just simply have to execute. You know, obviously you guys that have been coached yourself as well, it's invaluable. It's invaluable, and I'm going to be able to learn a significant amount at the same time. So brain gains as well as muscular gains. Anyway, we are 9 minutes out from the gym. Alex is there as we speak, smashing out some cardio. So I'll catch up with you when I'm there, and I'll try and get as much of this session clipped as possible. Probably do a little voiceover, and yeah, I'll see you on the other side. There we go then, Saturday morning send. We've got Alex, long-standing client of mine down from Huddersfield, I believe, to get an upper body session in together. Before we get stuck into the nitty-gritty, I will apologise in advance. These clips are all quite zoomed in. Why is that? It's because I have my DJI set up in portrait mode for the entire session because I completely forgot these were supposed to go on YouTube. Give me a break. Your boy's still getting used to this long-form content malarkey. Anyway, mega mass linear row, yes, it does live up to the hype. We want to cue a lot of scapular retraction here, which is why I've got my hand down Alex's spine and I'm trying to get him to pinch his shoulder blades together to squeeze my hand to really make sure we get those traps and the mid-back, upper back muscles as short and contracted as we possibly can. Moving on to pec deck, a couple of useful cues here as well. Firstly, sternum up, proud chest, scapula's retracted, making sure we lengthen those pecs as much as possible in the eccentric. You want to think about driving that bicep into the adjacent pec and imagining there's a really strong resistance band connecting the inside of those elbows together. We don't want to be finishing this movement with our hands touching and a big bend in our elbows like we're trying to hug a tree, because we're just not going to be getting the pec as short and as contracted as we can be. It's a big mistake that a lot of people still make on this. Moving on to the flat press here, Nautilus, fantastic piece of kit. You'll notice we're doing this neutral grip. It's a little bit more tricepy because you've got a greater degree of bend or flexion in the elbows, but really helps protect the pec, especially when you start pressing like, you know, 2, 3, 4 plates and above on this. I don't like to pack the shoulders down to an extreme degree, which a lot of people do. It just feels a bit awful, a bit naff for me. So I like a little bit of shoulder fluidity, but, you know, still making sure that they are retracted to a degree and we're not letting the chest cave and the delts round forward. Moving on to this strive overhead press, another belter piece of a kit. Really, really good. We've got this so it biases the length and range a little bit more favourably because we're quite deep into the session now, so it's heavy in that bottom, and then that midpoint and above, it just drops off a little bit because that's where we're going to be lacking in strength a little bit. Again, neutral grip. You'll very rarely see me press pronated or overhand for any overhead movements because it just doesn't agree with my shoulders. A little bit more front delt bias doing a neutral grip, but that's not the end of the world as long as you've got sufficient medial or side delt raise variations in your training split, such as we have here, the Panata Multifly. They'll get all the stimulus they need from those side raises. Useful little hack, because a lot of gyms have this piece of kit and they're all, from my experience, the same. They're all really slack and sloppy in that lengthened position. So rather than grabbing the handles, do what I'm doing here. Put the handles outside of your wrist. If it hurts, use a wrist wrap for a bit of padding and drive up from there. It just takes a bit of that slack out the bottom so you get tension a little bit earlier in the movement. Thinking about straight arms, triceps contracted, we want to make sure that we're just basically bringing that arm up as a lever. We're not flapping like a bird, going into shoulder internal rotation with that wrist finishing higher than the elbow. Moving on to a bit of arm work now. So we have this extremely heavy tricep dip in, just focusing on nice high elbows here. I don't mind if form's a little bit sloppy and touch and go. We're just looking to shift maximal load. We can lean on more isolated tricep work like skull crushes and extensions and push downs if you want to get a bit more specific. But with that tricep dip, yeah, we just load up and send it. And as you can see, Alex is looking absolutely class. I think he's week 5 reversal, so we're pretty much back at maintenance now. Condition is held beautifully. He looks just as lean as when we finished the diet, but significantly fuller. If you want to find out more about how Alex is getting on, check the Insta. So that is morning upper body day boxed off with client Alex. As you can see from the shots, the boy's looking mega, really, really good, really, really good. He is, as of Monday next week, officially going into his first proper growth phase, first proper surplus, not just under my watch, but flat out. The lad's only ever done diets before, so we're expecting some pretty nutty gains akin to, you know, those beginner gains when you first step foot in the gym in your teenage years and within 2 months your biceps are doubled in size. We're expecting some pretty nutty gains. He's never really driven food purposely into a calculated surplus before, with training demands to match. So it's really, really exciting. As you can see though, like, the lad's looking just as peeled, if not in better condition than he was today than he was 5 weeks ago at the end of his diet. The reason being is we ran a reversal phase. Do I do this with all clients? No. And some people flat out refuse to accept that reversal phases are necessary at all. I disagree entirely, but it depends. Does the athlete you're working with, or do you yourself, if you're thinking about running one yourself, do you have the mental resilience to carry on essentially a diet for another 4 weeks? Because that's what it is. Yes, with a reversal phase, the goal is to get you healthy, to drop off fatigue and inflammation, and to get calories back to a healthy, sustainable level around your maintenance. But you don't do it instantly. You do it over the space of 4, 5, maybe even up to 6 weeks. So essentially, once your official diet is done, you've still got another 4, 5, even 6 weeks of calorie counting, being in less and less of a deficit, but still a deficit nevertheless. So they're not for everybody, but if you're headstrong, like my boy Alex is, you're resilient, food focus is relatively low, they're an absolute must in my opinion, because now, for reference, 5 weeks ago, end of his diet, he was on 1700 training day, 16 or 1500 non-training day. Carbs are obviously in the bin. He's now 5 weeks later, food back at maintenance, just shy of 2,800. Good load of carbs in there, healthy fats going in, cardio and expenditures baseline, and he's feeling fresh, zero fatigue, ready to get after it, motivation is super high. And it's reflective in his physique. He looks full, the pumps are returning, training performance is slowly climbing out the hole, it's on the up. And he just looks fresh, he looks good. Which is why I will always say, if the mental resilience is there and there is willing, a reversal phase is a no-brainer. It just means that you enter that upcoming growth phase in the best possible position, meaning you can stay in that surplus for a much longer time and just reap the rewards of a very productive gaining phase. So yeah, he's looking fantastic. And we're now driving back to the motherland, that is Shropshire, if you don't know where that is. So that is where I hail from. Well, bit of backstory. I was born on the Wirral in Birkenhead, lived there for a couple of years or so, moved to Shropshire with the family, and that's sort of our family home, and that's where I lived until I moved out when I was 17. So we're going back home to spend the weekend in Shropshire. Side note, just picked up one of these bad boys. Have had one a couple of weeks ago with a Vice Guava. It's not my favourite flavour, I've got to be honest. Obviously, White Money, the OG, it takes top spot, it has to. Second place, controversial, but I'm going to give that to Lando Norris. Third place, probably even more controversial. I'm going to go Rosa. A lot of people fancy a Strawberry Dreams, but that's just a budget Rosa in my opinion. This Vice Guava, maybe I've not had enough of them and it hasn't grown on me, I'm not sure. It's okay, it's a bit too sweet for my liking. It's okay. Well, that serves me right for chatting shit for too long. I was so focused on telling you my thoughts and feelings about the new Monster Vice Guava that I missed my turning off the M60, and I've added another 25 minutes to my journey. Fantastic, but you'll be glad to know we're now on the M6. Yeah, we're going in the right direction. Anyway, as I was saying, not a huge fan, but on the subject of caffeine, I wanted to touch on something else which I've been having some issues with recently, and just bring some light to it, because I know so many of you watching this will be struggling with this currently, or will have struggled with this at some point during your lifting career. If you're anything like me, it's not even low-key, you're high-key addicted to these. For me, it's just caffeine in general, whether it's in the form of a sugar-free energy drink, whether it's in the form of an iced latte, shot of espresso, whatever it is. I love caffeine. I just love stimulants in general, you know. Back in my heyday, it was UPSs and Punishers and Dominoes. If you know, you know, but a bit too old for all that now, so it's caffeine. But yeah, over the years, my intake started to climb, and as that happens, your tolerance climbs. So then you have to drink more to have the same effects, and then your tolerance climbs even more. And it got to the point where I know my daily caffeine consumption was not good, and I started to notice some physical effects of that. Without giving too much away and giving too much information away, I essentially believe gave myself like acute IBS with the symptoms that I was having. You can put 2 and 2 together and imagine what they are for yourself. And yeah, it seemingly sprung out of nowhere, and I just could not seem to shift. I'm not intolerant to anything. I'm not celiac, not lactose intolerant, have no allergies. My diet hadn't changed drastically in the last probably 2 years. I'm a bit robotic when it comes to my nutrition. I just rotate around the same staple meals day in, day out, regardless of what phase of training I'm in, and just adjust the carbs, protein, fat content accordingly. So I knew it wasn't anything I was eating. So then I had to look elsewhere, and it didn't take me long to stumble on old caffeine, and I thought, what else has changed in my consumption of fluids and whole foods over the past 6 months, which may have caused these issues that I'm having? Oh yeah, my caffeine tolerance is through the roof. So we did a bit of trial and error. I pulled caffeine from my diet entirely for the space of a week, and within 48 hours my symptoms had all but cleared up. Now, how much of that is placebo? Because we know there is a lot of research around the gut-brain axis. We know they are intrinsically linked. We don't know by what systems and mechanisms that link happens, but we know they're linked. And there's almost like a psychosomatic type link happening, where you think you're better in your head because you removed a substance which you think may be causing these physical effects, and lo and behold, the physical effects go away. But I think it was more than a placebo. I really, really do. So I'm now in the process of slowly but surely titrating caffeine back into my diet. I'm on a half a scoop of pre-workout on training days, or a Monster, and no caffeine at all on non-training days. And touch woods, the symptoms are still in remission. They're still at bay. We haven't had anything come back. I am going to still get an appointment at the GP because there is a history of Crohn's in my family. 2 of my uncles and my granddad have it. I don't think my dad does, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I do or don't to a high degree. So it would still be worth getting that checked out anyway. I think we're going to be okay. Usually I'm like rock solid from a digestion standpoint. This is the first time in my life that I've had issues, and it makes sense that, you know, it's concurrent with the amount of caffeine that I've been taking on board in recent months, as life has got a little bit more stressful and sleep's been suffering as a result of that. I kind of lent a little bit on this, and probably a little bit too much to, but it is what it is. So anyway, if you guys out there are dealing with poor digestion, which kind of shows its head after taking caffeine on board, pre-workout Monster, whatever it is, that's not normal. It shouldn't be normal. It doesn't have to be normal, and you should probably look to take steps to rectify that. But, you know, first and foremost, try and understand what it is that's causing the discomfort, the irregularity, etc. Remove from the diet, see if symptoms improve, and if they do, begin the process of titrating it back in if you need to, if you see fit. I always say with pre-workout, because I have clients ask me quite often, do I need pre-workout? Do you recommend pre-workout? And I will say, I only recommend pre-workout if you think you need pre-workout. Don't start taking pre-workout before the gym, even if you feel like you have a lot of energy for the gym, because you'll become reliant on it. It'll become a crutch. You'll no longer be able to perform because you're not on pre-workout, and it just becomes a slippery slope. So if you're managing fine now without pre-workout, don't just start throwing it in for the sake of it. You know, by all means buy a tub and have it at home and save it for those gym sessions, whether they're early morning, you know, whether that you've slept bad the night before, whether you're balls deep in a diet phase and food is really low energy in the bin and you need that bit of a kick up the backside to perform well. That's when I would reserve pre-workout for. Do not become needlessly reliant on it. You know, the studies, the research shows, it has done for years, that caffeine is a fantastic sports supplement. Physical, cognitive benefits, a myriad of, but it doesn't mean that you have to have it.